there's a question in the title of this video that you probably didn't take seriously. What if your entire life is just a dream? You've heard something like this before, maybe from a Buddhist teacher, maybe from a philosophy class, maybe from someone who seemed very calm and slightly unreachable. You filed it somewhere between interesting and not useful, because the anxiety was still there the next morning. The difficult conversation was still there. The thing you can't stop thinking about was still there, solid as it always is. The idea passed through you without landing. I'm not going to teach you anything today. I've been sitting with this text from Longchenpa for a while, and what I want to do is follow it further than it's usually followed. Most of the time, people stop just before the part that actually does something. Longchenpa was a 14th century Tibetan master, and in the Trilogy of Rest, he wrote something that sounds simple until you let it sit. Understand that everything that has happened up to today is a mental object, exactly like the dreams of last night. The appearances of today, perceived but non-existent, are only mental illusions. Perceived but non-existent, the weight is fully present, the experience is fully there, and underneath it, no intrinsic ground, no substance holding the appearance up. He isn't offering a reframe. He's describing what's actually happening. Think about the last nightmare you had. While you were inside it, it was absolute. The fear had weight. Your body responded, heart accelerating, breath shortening. Every physical signal of real threat. No part of you was standing outside the dream. You were inside it completely, and it was inside you completely. And then you woke up. In the space of 1 second, everything that had been solid and terrifying became nothing. The context shifted, and with that shift, the entire structure of the nightmare revealed itself to have never had any ground. The fear didn't become less real. It was revealed to have never been real in the way you assumed. Longchenpa isn't pointing at the nightmare. He's pointing at this, the waking state, the situation that's been sitting in your chest for weeks, the anxiety that follows you from room to room, the weight that's there before you've even opened your eyes in the morning. Remember this, everything that appears, the joy you desire, the pain you avoid, is simply a dream. Not for a single instant should you consider it true. The joy you're chasing and the pain you're avoiding have the same nature as last night's dream. He says this as precision, not comfort. If the object of experience is a dream, the situation, the anxiety, the problem, then what about the one experiencing it? Longchenpa doesn't leave this open. Through the recognition that all objects are like dream images, the cognition of the apprehended object is removed, and by implication, the apprehender is also removed. For if the object is negated, the subject is too. When the apprehender ceases, the apprehended no longer exists either. The apprehended and the apprehender arise together. They dissolve together. The anxiety isn't just a dream. The one who is anxious is the same dream. The person and the illusion have the same nature. They appeared together from the same groundless ground. There is no one standing outside the dream, waiting to wake up. The dreamer is part of what's being dreamed. Longchenpa isn't saying nothing matters. He's saying something more precise. The structure you've been standing inside has no floor. and the anxiety that comes from treating that structure as the only reality begins to loosen when the ground it was standing on is seen for what it is. What I haven't been able to ignore about this is how much energy goes into maintaining the solidity of a problem. There's a kind of labor in keeping the difficulty feeling as heavy as it does, going back to it, pressing against its edges, as if the mind suspects somewhere that if it stopped pressing, the whole thing might reveal itself to be less substantial than assumed. Longchenpa describes what the mind actually is underneath all of this. The fundamental base, beyond all change, the vast sky of the nature of mind, is empty, luminous, and free from mental elaborations. The vast sky of the nature of mind, empty, luminous, free from elaboration, already here, already present, prior to every thought and fear and difficulty that has ever moved through it. He uses the image deliberately. The sky doesn't become the clouds moving through it. A storm doesn't change what the sky is. The sky was never compressed into the shape of the weather it contained. When the storm passes, as storms do, the sky is exactly what it always was. The nature of mind is the great space, and space across the three times is unchanging by nature. This unchanging nature is primordial nirvana, prior to everything that has ever felt heavy, not a destination somewhere ahead, already this. The anxiety most people carry who find this kind of material is a specific kind. It has no single object. It's ambient, underneath everything, there before the first thought of the day. And it depends on something, on the solidity of the problem, on the sense that something substantial here is in danger. Take the ground from under that as a seeing, not a strategy. And the structure generating the anxiety has nothing to stand on. Longchenpa says this directly. At first, when you encounter frightening nightmares, remember that they are only dreams, and your fear will dissipate immediately. The fear doesn't get managed. It dissipates, because what it was fear of, the solid, threatening thing, was always the same nature as the fear itself, dream recognizing dream. By remaining this way, the link between you and objects will dissolve. The structure of discernment will collapse, and then there will simply be the non-dual primordial wisdom, self-arisen consciousness, self-arising, already here, waiting for nothing, unchanged by everything that has ever appeared inside it. So when Longchenpa writes, repeat to yourself in everything you do, in your walking and your eating and your working, it's all a dream. He isn't offering a coping strategy. He isn't asking you to pretend the difficulty isn't there. He's pointing at the nature of what's actually present, the problem and the one who suffers from it, arising from the same groundless ground, dissolving together in the vast, luminous, unchanged space that was never anything other than what you are. Upon finding this point where no coordinates can be fixed, simply stay there. Remain natural. Simply stay there. Remain natural. After this ends, what remains is whatever is present right now, whatever has weight, whatever seems fixed. Is it possible that what feels most solid about your situation is also what was never examined? That the ground you stand on when you suffer, the assumption that the problem is real, then there is something here that needs to be escaped. Was always the dream inside the dream? Longchenpa doesn't answer that. He points and leaves the pointing to do what pointing does. What remains when the dreamer and the dream are seen to be the same, and neither has ever touched the sky they appeared in?